Okay, so let's talk about strategic planning. And of course, we have to start with, with Dilbert, because I think that is always the definitive source on business. But there is something to this. There is a point to this, that our plan is to invent some sort of doohickey that everyone wants to buy. And that's visionary leadership. And we are going to talk about that. But the important part of the planning process is this great quote by Edwards Deming. It just says, a goal without a method is nonsense. In other words, it's great to have goals. It's important to have goals. But what a business needs is how you're going to get there. And that starts with a lot of analytical work. So that's the important work, a big part of the important work of strategic planning. So you start with your current state and your desired future state, and then you go through a process that looks like this. This is a good schematic. I'm going to keep referring back to it. But it starts with that desired future state. So, and that future state is a mission statement or a vision statement. A lot of places consider them separate entities, the mission and the vision. A lot of places merge them together. So, I tend to treat them as one. But it really says, what do we want to do? What do we want to become? What are we trying to be? Not who we are, but what are we trying to be? It's that big and beautiful statement that says, here's what our goal is, and it states what everybody's role is in achieving that. It evolves with time. I like the word aspirational. It's what we're trying to be. It should be moral. And I'm going to show you a short video from Simon Sinek where he defines it as just cause. And I think this is really a good way to look at it. Oops, didn't mean to stop the share. Okay. So let's pull this back up and watch this video.
There's too much debate about what's the difference between vision and mission, right? There's no standardized definitions of these things. Some people have one of them, some people have both of them. Nobody is sure which one goes first. And I'm not willing to step into that debate. I think it's silly. And so I believe in the just cause, which is this affirmative statement of a future state that does not yet exist that I will commit my business to help build, right? You can call it vision if you want, but I like the term just cause because it holds a higher standard. It's a cause so just that I would be willing to sacrifice for it. Sacrifice could mean turning down a client. That's free money. It could, because they don't believe what I believe. Sacrifice could mean spending time away from my family. It could mean taking business trips. It could mean turning down a job somewhere else that could pay me more money because I want to do this. I believe in this. And if any of you have vision statements for your businesses, if you have a just cause, a cause so just that your people would sacrifice for it, I have a test. It's a very simple test of 3 things that if you can pass all these 3 things, you have a vision, you have a just cause worthy of playing in the infinite game, right? So I'll run through them quickly, then I'll explain them. Your vision, your just cause must be resilient, it must be inclusive, and it must be service-oriented. Okay, so resilient means that your vision, your just cause, can withstand cultural, political, or technological change, right? Which means when I hear people say, to be the best technology, well, that's not going to sustain through technological change. Think about how many businesses went like this simply because the internet was invented, right? So it has to, your cause has to be written in terms that is durable, that is resilient through technological, political, and cultural change. That's number 1. Number 2, it has to be inclusive, which means it's the very words that you choose are an invitation to those who believe what you believe, whether they're internal or external, right? They're an invitation to anyone who wants to contribute to what you believe. So for example, if you talk about to build the best travel website, let's just say, right? That means the only people who would want to volunteer to be a part of it are people who build travel websites, or people who build websites. That means if you're an accountant, if you're somebody in back office, if you're somewhere in the support, you've literally made me feel like a second-class citizen in my own company, right? So it has to be written in terms that anybody, no matter what job they play, feels like they could contribute directly to that cause. So it has to be inclusive. And the third one is my favorite one, is it has to be service-oriented. In all relationships, there's always a benefactor and a contributor and a benefactor. So if I go to my boss for advice, career advice, I expect that her advice to me will benefit me, right? I want to be the benefactor of that contribution. If they're giving me advice, if she only gives me advice that benefits her career,
Right.
well, that means the primary benefit of her advice was her, not me. So service orientation means that the primary benefit goes to those other than the contributor. So if you're the leader, that means the primary benefit of leadership has to go to those other than the leader themselves. You cannot make decisions to enrich yourself. You have to make decisions to help those that you lead. Now, you absolutely can make money, you can absolutely have ambition, those things are fine, but not as the primary benefit, right? A salesperson cannot make a sale simply to drive their own bonus. They have to make the sale to help the person get what they're trying to buy. The primary benefit. If you're an investor, the primary benefit of your investment has to go to someone other than yourself, i.e. the company you're investing in. And if you're the company, the primary benefit of one of your company's sales, the primary benefit has to go to those other than the contributor, which is yourself, means it has to go to the customer, it has to go to the client. So your vision statement needs to pass all those tests.
So I thought that was pretty good. I thought that made a lot of sense to me, and it did anyway. So, so that's when we talk about, that's what we talk about when we talk about vision statements. A few more notes, again, just from current slide. Has to be clear. It has to answer what and by when. It will evolve with time. Has to be measurable, at least something that you can use to build measurements. And as Simon Sinek said, it's focused on others. And a really good vision statement for a corporation is something that individual team leaders can translate into a parallel vision statement, a supporting vision statement. So if, for example, you're talking about service orientation, like a Zappos or somebody like, somebody who's known for extremely outstanding customer service, that can translate internally as well as externally in your company. So it's more than just your customer service team. It's how you make products, how the different areas within the company support each other as well. And provide services to each other. So, it should cascade through the entire organization. Here's an example of some examples actually of what I think is a pretty good vision statement. So are you all familiar with the Boys and Girls Club?
Yep.
Yeah.
You've at least seen the ads for it if you haven't been involved with them before. And this is real simple and clear: to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, responsible citizens. Now, the Boys and Girls Club will have, I don't know, a dozen programs in their portfolio, and each one of those can speak to that particular mission statement. And so I think that's a really good one. Another one, Lippert Components here in Elkhart County. Our purpose as a company is to make lives better through developing meaningful relationships with our coworkers, customers, and community. Our goal is for our team members to feel a deeper purpose at LCI and to continue to build better work environment by aligning our cultural and business strategies. Is anybody at all familiar with Lippert as an employer?
No.
Now, when I taught this class in the fall, I had a Lippert employee in the class, and she would vouch for that. Mikai would vouch for the fact that this is how Lippert operates. They want those same relationships with their employees that they want their employees to have with their customers. There's an old management adage that says employees are going to treat the customers the way management treats the employees. And I think it's true. I think that comes through all the time. And Lippert is one of those companies that treats their employees great. I have never had dealing with them as a customer, but I am willing to bet that it's pretty darn good to deal with them as a customer. CVS Pharmacies, short and sweet, helping people on their path to better health. Anybody here shop at CVS?
Used to.
Used to. Does anybody know a big change that they made probably 3-4 years ago now?
Yeah, they stopped selling tobacco, didn't they? Or
Yeah, they took down tobacco products. It finally dawned on them that that was not aligned with this mission, that they weren't helping people on the path to better health. So they decided that they would change that. And so again, that becomes a framework for everything that they do. How about this one? Walmart. We save money so that we save people money so they can live better. Does that sound like Walmart?
unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Does it say anything about we're going to give you the best shopping experience you ever had?
No,
That it does not.
No. And does Walmart give you the best shopping experience you ever had?
I believe
Depends on
so.
the store.
I believe
Okay.
so because they market their stores according to you.
Oh, okay. But in general, you go there, you know, what's the reason people go to Walmart? It's because you fill up your basket and you save money doing it. Otherwise you'd go to Whole Foods every time because they got these people who treat you really, really well and they're eminently available. Whereas at Walmart, finding someone to help you in the aisles can be difficult. There was a store when I lived in the Chicago area called Sunset Foods. And it's a small chain, mostly in the north suburbs, and it was more expensive. And yet people loved to shop there who could afford it because the manager was right out in front all the time, handing out the carts, saying hello to everybody, always asking on the way out, how was everything? What can we do better? You pull your cart up to the checkout counter and sorry, we don't let you unload it. You can start unloading it, but some young person, generally some employee, is going to come up and say, no, I have that, and they're going to unload. They're going to put your groceries actually on the belt. That's shopping experience. They'll stock anything for you that you wanted. If you said, I don't see product X, and they say, well, we don't sell a lot of those, but how often you're going to buy it? I'll make sure we have one for you every week. Everything was quality. Everything was great. That their mission was all about the shopping experience and the quality of the product. Walmart's mission is less about the shopping experience and more about giving you better prices.
I didn't know that Walmart also too puts the milk at the end of the store just because so you can go shopping there and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot the peanut butter, or I forgot this. You just went in for milk, but the thing is you come out, like you said, with a basket full of.
Oh yeah, and that's a lot of retailing is all about placement of products, and not just where they put things to make you walk through the store, but where how high on the shelf is it? If it's an impulse buy, they're going to put it right at your eye line.
Yeah,
that's
a
if
retail
it's something
strategy.
if it's something the kids beg you for, it's going to be right at a kid's eye line. So yeah, that's something for marketing class. Okay, how about Warby Parker? Finally, I've been using this for years as an example of a really good mission statement. And Warby Parker is now, you're seeing them a lot on television advertising because the company has become very successful and they can afford national advertising now. Warby Parker was founded with a rebellious spirit and a lofty objective to offer designer eyewear at a revolutionary price while leading the way for a socially conscious business. So if you look into them a lot, that they're very big on recycling, on green technologies, and so on. And so they're consistent with that. But yeah, they offer a variety of wide eyewear at a much better price than you can get at most other places.
Can I ask you a question? Are they worth looking into?
As an investment?
No, as getting eyewear, because I mean, I wear glasses, so
Yeah, I do
I-
too. And I have not bought from there before, but they will send you, you know, they're willing to, first of all, they have the new app. I don't know if you've seen that on TV where you take a picture of yourself and you can virtually try on different kinds of glasses and see what you think,
yeah, I did see
Um,
that.
which is pretty cool. But they also, they're also willing to send you several models and have you send back the one you don't want or the ones you don't
Okay.
want. So yeah, I think they're worth looking into. You know, I'm probably due, so I need to get an eye exam and then I'll see what I do for purchasing. Another one is Honest Tea. I don't know how many of you have used the product, but Honest Tea is something that you would find in a Whole Foods or Fresh Time or something like that. It's, you know, it's a somewhat more expensive, but it says we seek to create and promote great tasting, healthy, organic beverages. We strive to grow our business with the same honesty and integrity that we use to craft our products with sustainability and great taste for all. So they are in, you know, fair traded ingredients. They are, you know, and this whole idea of honesty and integrity is something that should permeate the business according to this mission statement. It should affect how they deal with each other, how they deal with financial reporting, as well as the products that they create for their customers. And when you name your company or your product Honest, you probably have to live up to that too. Another one is Nordstrom. Who's familiar with Nordstrom? Is anybody?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, it's a high-end department store, and it's probably a business that doesn't have great long-term prospects anymore. You know, short-term, it's still profitable, even though some of the other department stores have gone out of business. But as we get away from malls and shopping, Nordstrom's either going to have to reinvent itself somehow, or you know, it's going to have to do something else. Maybe they'll pursue the Zappos model where they'll have their great customer service online and less of a physical footprint. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but Nordstrom is legendary for service. And I actually have a video I'll show you about that. But it says at Nordstrom, our goal is to provide outstanding service every day, one customer at a time. We work hard to make decisions in the best interest of our customers and those serving them. And that last little tag is really important because that speaks to their employees. Now, they also have, you know, a list of values, and just to highlight a couple of them, you know, be empowered is one of them. We want you to take initiative and we'll support your efforts to deliver exceptional service. This is important in a service organization, and they're very clear about stating it. It says, be recognized. We value people who drive results, and we recognize outstanding performance. I think that's important. And then finally, be kind. We work hard to offer great service to each and every customer. We believe that begins with showing courtesy to everyone, customers and coworkers alike. And this video I'm about to show you is kind of, it's been out there for a long time. It's pretty legendary in customer service annals, and I'm going to show it to you, and you can see an example of their mission statement and their values being, you know, turning into action. So here we go.
I tell everybody the story. I don't shop anywhere else for my clothes. Makeup, hosiery, shoes, clothing, pocketbooks, everything comes from Nordstrom.
So I'm sitting in my office right after the store opens, and Eric Wilson comes into my office, pulls out a diamond out of his pocket.
I was shopping Nordstrom late in the evening, and I had hurriedly tried on a lot of clothes, and I made some purchases, headed down to accessories, and then out the door. When I got home and ready for bed, I noticed that my diamond for my wedding ring was missing.
I'm doing my routine, I'm on the floor. I see a lady on the floor on her hands and knees, and she's in a dress. So what I did was I went over and offered some assistance, see if I could help her with anything.
He could have just as easily walked by, but he looked at me and he knew I was in distress, and he handled it.
He couldn't find it after searching for it, so he touches base with our building services team, and two individuals, Bart Garcia and Tom Fraley, along with Eric, go through vacuum cleaner bag after vacuum cleaner bag, for this diamond.
Tom and I came up first. Tom grabbed the vacuum cleaner, and of course we got the bag out of there. And
Took it right out just like this. All we had to do is just open it up. There it was.
As soon as the light hit that diamond,
Yeah,
it
as soon as
just
the light hit it,
sparkled.
we knew what it was.
Eric called me and he said, Mrs. Shaw, I believe we have something of yours. And my heart just leapt.
it was silence at first when we first presented the diamond, and then afterwards, in her eyes, I saw tears.
Sure, I had insurance. It could have been replaced, but to have my diamond back meant the world to me.
It was very humbling to see how much the small effort has meant to her.
This really happened. This is real. This is my diamond. This wasn't fabricated, oh, thank you, Mrs. Shaw, for shopping at Nordstrom. This was, I did this for you because that's who I am as a Nordstrom employee, and I value you as a Nordstrom customer. And I'm gonna go out of my way. Nordstrom employees, I don't care what their job is, they all make a difference in the customer experience. I don't care if it's the person that polishes the railing or the loss prevention person or the actual salesperson. It's not just about the person making the sale, it's about, you know, top to bottom. It's everybody. I'm a Nordstrom customer because of customer service. It's solid. I'm locked in. You're not gonna lose me.
So can you imagine a situation where a guy walks by, sees a woman on her hands and knees, just trying to see if something's in the rug, and gets down on his hands and knees with her and looks, and it doesn't even end there. It didn't even end there. Instead, it's okay, let's look into it with maintenance. Let's see if we can find this. Can you imagine looking for a needle in a haystack like that? And, you know, I think that's, you know, when you talk about building a culture and it starts with a vision, that's what you want in your business. That's, you know, that's visionary. A few more. The American Red Cross to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. Sounds about right. Yeah, is this how we understand the American Red Cross?
I've actually done work with the Red Cross before, and yes, that is very much how they operate.
Yeah, so it's, you know, we a lot of these are very public companies that we've known for a long time, and it does make sense. Disney, creating happiness through magical experiences. Happiest place on earth. Now, whether, you know, how that holds up now that they've acquired ABC, ESPN, and all that, you know, we'll have to see. But when you talk about the Disney company itself, both for movie production as well as for the theme parks and so on, it does kind of hold true, does it not?
I would say that their vision statement is true, but I feel like they've maybe strayed away from their original ideals as a company.
You know, you have to wonder, and we're going to talk about some different kinds of strategies in a little while, and that's a good point about Disney, is have they expanded in ways that get them away from this? Albertsons, this is a poor vision statement, I think, because as you read it, to create a shopping experience that pleases our customers, a workplace that creates opportunities, and a great working environment for associates, and a business that achieves financial success. That's all good, but somewhere in here, you have to give an idea of what business you're in. How many of you are familiar with Albertsons?
I am. They're down in Texas.
Yeah, and what do they do?
They're a grocery store.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That you wouldn't get that from this vision statement. So I think, you know, there's just this needs a small tweak, but it needs a tweak that you have to understand to really understand it. This is another one, Avery Dennison, to help every brand, to make every brand more inspiring and the world more intelligent. Now that's nice and it's lofty. They make labels. They make stick-on labels. Maybe business cards and some of those kinds of products too. I don't know if you're going to make that inspiring and make the world more intelligent with that product. So it's hard to align with that. Also, this one for Unicorp is committed to providing value-added services through the growth of personal and business relationship, which translates into competitive profits, client satisfaction, professional growth, and career enhancement for our employees and our long-term viability for our company. And then it goes into this multifaceted mission as our driving force. So it's multifaceted. Solid corporate leadership, which guides and directs, foster an attitude of outstanding customer service and satisfaction. That's fine. Refine our corporate vision to leverage human, technical, and financial resources. As I go through this, it is an example of the fun game that some companies play called Buzzword Bingo. And that's where you get a bingo card with all of the favorite business buzzwords. And every time someone uses it in a meeting, you cross it off. And if you get bingo, you get to shout it out in the middle of the meeting. So that's my problem with this one. It is so full of business jargon that I don't know how you latch onto it. It is also much too long for anybody to really latch onto it. And this is another example of a poor mission and vision statement. It says our mission is to operate the best specialty retail business in America, regardless of the product we sell. Because the product we sell is books, our aspirations must be consistent with the promise and ideals of the volumes which line our shelves. To say that our mission exists independent of the product we sell is to demean the importance and distinction of being booksellers. So it says, regardless of the product we sell, but here's the product we sell, and that's an important distinction. It just doesn't make any sense. Does anybody want to guess who this is?
Barnes and Noble.
It is Barnes and Noble.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Just too much jargon and too contradictory. I don't know. Now, I will tell you, I have sat in strategic planning sessions where in fact, I'll tell you a story about one. I worked for Pinnacle Bank based in St. Joseph, Michigan for 5 years. And it was a really great place. It was a great place to work, and it was a high-performing bank, and we ultimately sold it and sold it for the highest multiple that a regional Midwestern bank ever got, because it was valuable property. But we went away for strategic planning. We always have an annual senior management retreat. And so the first thing we're doing is just wordsmithing the heck out of this mission statement. And finally, the CEO, who'd been sort of sitting back, and his name is Dick Shanzi, and Shanzi kind of gave it that clear my throat, I want the floor. And so he stood up and he says, why don't we just make it work hard, have fun? And that was, was one of the great things about working there, because that was exactly what it was like. But we didn't settle on that because we still wanted to say something about our customers, but that was really the attitude of the place. And that's what you want, is you want the top-down leadership is supposed to set the tone for everybody else. Okay, once you've developed a mission statement, one of the next steps is to assess both your company and your product lines. So you want to start talking about them in terms of SWOT. Has anybody ever heard of SWOT analysis before?
I am not.
They have not. And it's a very fun exercise, and you can spend a lot of time doing it, but it's really identifying your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward exercise. What do we do really well? What do we do not so well, or that we need to do and don't? That's weaknesses. Opportunities. What can we do? What's out there that can be an opportunity for us to grow? And what are the threats that exist? So it's a cool exercise. So here's another phrasing of it, and you can look at that on the when you look at the PowerPoint slides after class. But let's do a few. So is everybody familiar with Panera?
Yep.
Yes.
So what are some of Panera's strengths?
Sandwich making.
Yeah, keep going.
Soups.
Keep throwing them out there.
I know they're good for giving their bread away to the needy when they're done.
Okay, so that's kind of a cool thing that they do. What else? What do you think about the food there?
It's kind of
Tastes
pricey,
pretty
but
good.
it's worth eating.
Okay, so you think it tastes good? Is it better than most, most places in the fast food realm?
I'd say so.
Okay. What else is on the menu that's really good?
Their soups.
Their soups are excellent. Yeah. What
Salad.
else?
Do you have salads there?
Yeah, I do believe they do.
I call them like the place where you want to eat healthy at, and if you want to get a sandwich that's like low in carbs and stuff, you can go to Panera Bread. I call them the eat healthy place.
It is an eat healthy place, unless of course you tap into that bakery that they have, which is also really good. But that's
Some of their pastries are pretty fantastic.
yeah, yes, they are. Okay, what are some of
Mini
the
chocolate
weaknesses?
muffins are good.
Oh yeah, it's all good. Look, if I ever give away secrets to the nation's enemies, it's either going to be because of nacho cheese Doritos or pastries. Um, they will ply me with that, and I'll give it up right away. What are some of the weaknesses of Panera?
Price points.
Prices, yeah. You're not going to eat there every day because it's going to cost you 10, 11 bucks to eat there probably.
I know they got a good deal on coffee right now. It's like you pay like a certain price and you get unlimited coffee for the month.
Okay. Yeah. So the coffee deal might mitigate that. What else is a weakness?
They have such a wide variety. It's almost like they don't have anything that they're special in, anything that's their top priority or that they're the best at.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. That can variety be a strength? Maybe. Can variety be a weakness? Yeah, if you overwhelm your customers, it can be. And in fact, you could also look at it and say, look, if 80% of what's ordered is 20% of the menu, then we have a carrying cost for the other 80% of the menu that may not translate into profitability. So you have that. So that would be a weakness. Is there one more that you can think of?
Is a weakness sometimes if the location.
Could be,
and also,
yeah.
And also too, I know they're independently owned. So if the independent person owns it, doesn't have a good location, they might not make the money there.
Yeah, and locations can be a really, really big deal. So for instance, how often do you see a McDonald's go out of business because nobody can get to it?
Never.
Rarely.
You never do. In fact, it got so ridiculous that Burger King just started locating wherever McDonald's was. They were perfectly willing to take the overflow. So nowadays, if you see a Burger King, look up the block in each direction. I'm willing to bet you'll see a McDonald's. So there's more McDonald's than Burger King. So it's not going to be the other way around. But you'll see a McDonald's nearby.
I know Burger King this year is starting to rebrand their name. They're doing more drive-through, I think, than actually come in because of the pandemic going on.
Yeah, and you're going to see that in the industry where a lot of the fast food restaurants are going to go strictly to drive-through going forward. This is just that was a trend that was in the works anyway, and now you're seeing the COVID situation as a catalyst for more people just doing it faster, and that's true of a lot of industries.
Are they doing more like a Sonic than anything?
I don't know if they're going to have people bring it to your car or not.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, though, and we can talk about that in terms of opportunities as to where that's going to go, because that would be a classic thing that you would put under opportunities. The only other thing I can think of with Panera is it's make to order, so it's not really fast. If you're in a hurry at lunchtime because you have to get back to the office, a limited amount of time, Panera is not necessarily a good option because you can't get in and out of there quickly enough. So that's
You know that some Panera Breads now are doing deliveries now.
Yeah.
So it's another strength that they're having, because like you said, if they're wanting to do a quick in and out, instead of doing a quick in and out, you just call them up and just, or go on the internet and give your order and they'll come to you.
Yeah, and you know what? Another strength would be catered lunches. You can get a sandwich plate from Panera if you have a lunch meeting, and they'll deliver it. So if we were to look at opportunities for Panera, if you were to back up a couple of years, delivery would have been on the list. That's an opportunity. Now they're actually doing it. But that would have been on your list as the kind of thing that would be an opportunity. Can you think of any other opportunities for Panera?
Like you said, the catering business is another opportunity.
Yeah, and even though they have it, it may be an opportunity for growth. It could become a big growth area for them. What are the
Because I know a lot
threats?
of companies are liking that catering business. A lot of companies try to find that because they want, like you said, the lunch meeting. So that's one good growth that they could have.
Yep. You know, same thing, breakfast meetings too. Same thing, bring in the pastries, bring in the juice. How about threats? What would be a threat to a place like Panera?
Cheaper alternatives moving into their area.
Yeah, so you could have an operation like Zoop. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but they also
familiar
make
with them.
really good. They make good sandwiches,
Who's them?
serve soups.
What's the name of them?
Zoop,
Zoop.
Zoup.
Okay, no, we don't have them over here yet.
Yeah, it's limited, but that could be a new threat. So a new entrant into their part of the market could be a threat. What else?
I know McAllister's could be a threat to their
Yeah.
area too.
So you'd want to be looking at competition, and you know, what if some of the lower end stores were to start selling higher end sandwiches and be able to do it? What if McDonald's came up with a gourmet type of sandwich or two, which by the way they have? But what if they come up with that and they deliver it faster than Panera can? Is that a threat?
Very much so.
Very much so. So you get the idea of how SWAT works. Anybody familiar with Zollman's Tire?
No, I'm not familiar. We don't have that over here.
Yeah, you're not going to have it in Northwest Indiana. It's a Michiana operation. It's a really good operation. I can step you through it if you haven't done it. It's a small chain located in Michiana, family-owned business. Nate Zollman, the CEO, is the second generation. His father started the business, and it's a really, really good high service organization. So if you looked at strengths, you would talk about service. You would talk about quality. You would talk about great workmanship. Good customer service story for Zollman's would be, I can give you two actually. One is they fixed a tire for me, it was a problem. What they did, they ground it down too far, and so a week later it was low again. I went back in, said, you fix this, and it's still going down. They gave me 2 new tires for free.
We got a company called Levine's. We got a company called Levine's over here and Tire Center, and they have like pretty much, they're from here to the Illinois line. They're really good too. They're a total care place, and they got some pretty good prices.
Yeah. And so, it's those kinds of things though, that that high touch service that, people like, especially with their cars. But what's their weakness? Well, they don't have the coverage, and price could be a weakness for them, although they address that with the opportunity of saying, we will match any price you bring us. And when you live in the same place as the original Tire Rack warehouse, where the prices are very low, and they'll match anything that you can drive across town and get from Tire Rack. Or when if you started to look at threats too, well, if you backed up a few years, the threats were people like, low cost competition like Tire America or so on. But now, Bell Tire has come into the market as an example. There's 2 or 3 that have just come into the market and started selling tires as well. So,
yeah, Monteith's is going to be a big competitor for them because they also have just absolutely wonderful service and they're backed by Tire Rack too. So
Yeah. So you have those kinds of issues and those kind of dynamics. And so maybe what Zollman's needs to do is get into other services as well. And again, they have. And I'll give you another service example for them. I went in there. I was going over to campus one day, probably a year and a half ago now, and all of a sudden, my car turns loud, and I hear one of the pipes dragging underneath. So instead of going to campus, I made a turn in the other direction and just went over to Zollman's, who doesn't even do muffler work and exhaust system work, or didn't at the time anyway. But I drove in and I said, can you take a look at this? Well, I'll tell you what they did for me. They said, well, we'll fix it if we can, but if we can't, we'll just secure it so that it's not dragging so that you can get someplace else. And that's what they wound up doing. And so they came out and said, okay, we have it so that you can drive. Now you can go, you can go to an exhaust shop and get it taken care of. And I said, great, what do I owe you? And they said, nothing. Because they know I'm coming back as a customer. So that's a local business, a small business. How about Apple? What are some of Apple's strengths?
they corner their market.
When you say corner, what do you mean by that?
I guess this would prove to be both a weakness and a strength at the same time. By they produce products that are compatible with other Apple products, but not necessarily compatible with other things. So when you purchase an Apple product, you now need to purchase other Apple products to produce that intercompatibility. While at the same time, that's also a negative because now less people want to purchase them because they lack the compatibility with their other products that they own.
Yeah. So yeah, it could fall into a couple categories that need to be addressed. What are other strengths of Apple?
I know they got the Apple Pay.
Okay, what is that indicative of? I'm just trying to draw something out of you here. What does Apple do really well, just in general, with their products? Apple is innovative. Apple is, if they're not the first to roll out a product, they're first to roll it out in a big way. This goes back to the iPod. They were the first ones to roll out the smartphone in a big way, tablets with the iPad, now the Apple Watch. So one of their strengths is product innovation.
And now they have to compete with Google for that because Google is also pushing for more innovative items as well.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that on threats. So they have that. How about customer loyalty? Is that a big thing with Apple?
That's their number one selling point.
It sure is. Apple customers love their Apple products, period. They do. What are the weaknesses? Oops, excuse me.
Well, one of the weaknesses is that intercompatibility issue that they have.
Yeah. So
yeah, I agree with that because a lot of their products, I know like their earbuds, you can't get earbuds. You have to pay for the earbuds, which is really expensive.
Yeah. So you said the word expensive. Is that a weakness for Apple?
Very much so.
I believe so.
Yeah, very much so. It truly is. How about opportunities? What are opportunities for Apple?
A lot. They have so much opportunities. Like as you said, the product innovations always changing with them.
Yeah. So one of them is what's next. If you were to back up a couple of years, they would be calling the Apple Watch an opportunity. Now it's starting to actually get a lot of traction, more than just the early adopters. What's a threat? You mentioned Google.
Google is definitely a threat because although Apple is good at innovation, Google is also very good at innovation. And one of their things is that while they have things like Apple Pay, you also have things like Google Pay, which are just as good, if not better, in some situations.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I don't know about Apple products at all because I don't have one. I've never deal with one. But how's their search engine compared to Google?
Google definitely has the corner on that market.
Google does. You have, if we were doing this for Google, we would talk about the secure search engines that are a threat to them. The Start Pages and DuckDuckGo. But we're not. We're talking about Apple. So you have that. I'll throw out one more for Apple as a threat. I mean, Samsung would be on the list too. Samsung is
For sure.
you know, and probably companies like Ericsson and Huawei that, you know, that can deliver products at a lower price, and they're going to skim off some of the potential customers there. But here's another one. Apple has made has sold a lot of iPhones by packaging them with major telco providers' service plans. So if you sign a 3-year contract with Verizon, you can get your iPhone cheap.
But now that we're moving away from phone plans, because now most phone plans are pay as you go, I guess that would kind of be a non-starter anymore.
That's exactly right. That you know that the changing nature of the wireless service industry is changing how Apple can sell iPhones. And that's a big deal because, you know, the price tag may be high on an iPhone, but if you could get it cheap by agreeing to a service plan, then that was no longer an inhibitor. So that's how that works. Let's do Ivy Tech real quickly. So we're the community college. We serve the people of our state through accessible and affordable world-class education and adaptive learning. We empower our students to achieve their career and transfer aspirations, and we embrace our vision of economic transformation inspired by the education and earnings attainment of our citizens, the vitality of our workforce, and the prosperity of our unique and diverse communities. What's the strengths of Ivy Tech?
Cost.
Cost is a big one, yep.
I'd say cost and availability.
Yeah, availability. Not one of you is going to jump in here and suck up by saying the quality of the faculty.
That's true. Another thing is
that was a chance to get an A in the course.
Dang.
Professors can be bought.
I hope not.
No, I'm lying.
I like I noticed they're doing a lot of transfers to different four-year colleges for your majors now. I know the University of Indianapolis has signed a deal with Ivy Tech so we can get guaranteed admissions to other four-year schools to continue our education.
Yeah, and we have articulation agreements for supply chain management as an example with UIndy, as well as Ball State, and as well as Evansville, and as well as, I'm missing somebody in the
Purdue.
state. I don't think we have, yes, I take that back. We do have an articulation agreement with Purdue. Yes, we do. So, you know, so there's a specific curriculum where you'll just seamlessly transfer into their programs. Others you can still transfer. It's just a matter of evaluating credits. So what are the opportunities for Ivy Tech? If I told you that the state is really trying to grow its manufacturing, healthcare, and tech sectors,
I would definitely say that there's a lot of opportunity in the programs that are available. Like a lot of us are doing the Next Level Jobs program, which is definitely a big opportunity.
yeah, it is, and that's when they talk here about you know, aligning with the communities and with the state. that's, that's an opportunity for that to happen. And just in general, the growth, I know this because I live it. The growth of the supply chain management program is an opportunity. And because, I live and work in Michiana, where there is a very fast growing or still growing manufacturing base and a fast growing warehousing and distribution sector, that's huge. And that's a big opportunity. What are the threats for Ivy Tech?
I'm not saying a threat, but I know one of the things that you guys have really there in Elkhart County, is I know you guys want the people to be trained in manufacturing and supply chains because of the RV industry.
Sure. And it's certainly, it can be a threat. Now, Elkhart County has diversified a lot, but RVs are still the big dog, by any stretch of the imagination. And that's really good for Elkhart County now, because as a result of the pandemic, a lot more people are either purchasing or renting RVs. And so shipments are way up on RVs. That, the late months of 2020 were higher than 2019. It's one of the few industries that can say that. So they have that, and there may be an opportunity in that. But one of the lessons learned, and this would be a big threat, is economic. That if you go back to 2008 and 2009, when the economy tanked, the RV industry tanked. I mean, we measured job losses by like tens of thousands in Elkhart County. The unemployment rate was over 20%. And so the opportunity there was diversification. The threat was that we don't have a diversified economy, and when fuel prices run up and the economy gets bad, well, when fuel prices run up, people don't use their RVs or use their RVs less. So the secondary parts are out of there and the new sales just tank. And then at the same time, when the economy goes bad, people don't buy basically grown-up toys like RVs and boats and things like that. So there's a threat there in the area. It's interesting what that means to Ivy Tech, because when the economy goes bad, there's a demand for retraining. And so we mentioned the Next Level Jobs program. That demand for retraining as a result of job losses during the pandemic has actually increased our enrollment. But otherwise, our big threat was that enrollment was down leading into that, and it was a real challenge. And when you have 19 campuses around the state, and enrollment is down, you start asking yourself, do I have to scale back? Is 19 campuses too many? Do I need to spread it out? How do we do that? Opportunity, technology. One of the things that we've learned to do is exactly what we're doing right now, is delivering classes remotely. And so now, if you want to join my class because this works in your schedule, well, and you happen to live in Northwest Indiana, you can do it. And you can still get the interaction of a classroom. It's not exactly the same as a classroom, but it's a different kind of interaction than you get in the more traditional online courses. So
one of the things I like about Ivy Tech was that I'm taking your class, living over here in LaPorte County, and also my other classes, the professors in Terre Haute.
Yeah.
So that's one of the good things about Ivy Tech, is that you can take a class remotely from anywhere in the state, which is kind of good.
Yeah, and when you can do that, and you know what, we used the technology before. I started teaching with a live stream component for a stats class a few years ago, because we needed the enrollment, and I had people as far away as Sellersburg in the southern part of the state who would come into the class. So we deliver it out of the classroom, but there was an option to do it in this live stream mode. The first time we had a snow day, well, of course, when I have people in other parts of the state that don't have snow days, we're having the class. So I had everybody join, join remotely. And right where I'm sitting now is where I conducted that first class. And you know what? Half of my Elkhart people never came back to class. They said, hey, I kind of like this. And I never saw them again in person. And that was fine. That was their prerogative. So that kind of flexibility is important, though. I have continued, even when I had a classroom format, to tell my students, if you're sick, if you have a sick child and you have to stay home because your child is home, if your car breaks down, whatever it is, if you give me an hour's notice, I'll have it streaming for you, and you can join the classroom remotely, and you can still interact, and you still know all your classmates, and so those are options. So I think that kind of flexibility is a real strength for Ivy Tech. I think we're very, very willing to do that, and you'll probably see more. You'll probably see more colleges willing to do that now that they've had to change their formats, and they'll embrace it a little bit more. McDonald's, just real quickly, I want to hit a couple of these, but we can't do this forever. McDonald's, if you were to say McDonald's 5 years ago, and what you know about it, what were its strengths?
How well established it is.
Yeah, everybody knows it. So when you think fast food, it's probably the first thing that pops in your mind.
I think that they're also too, they're independently owned, and I know they have a great training program for those independent owners.
Yeah, so they have great training. What else? Is their quality the best?
No, but they do have a very good time frame that they work in.
Yeah. Is their quality consistent? In other words, if you walk into McDonald's in South Bend, or you walk into McDonald's in, I don't know, St. Louis, you're pretty much going to get the same quarter pounder with cheese?
No.
Not really. The quality does fluctuate with McDonald's depending on location.
A little bit.
Also fluctuates with the menu too. If you go to St. Louis, you might have something that you don't see in South Bend.
Yeah, generally what they're doing there is test marketing. So they're testing a product, and you do. I would offer that I disagree with you that pretty much the sandwiches are the same anywhere. They might vary a little bit because of local preparation preferences, or who the local supplier is, or something like that. But pretty much, if you ask for a quarter pounder with cheese, you're going to get pretty much the same sandwich no matter where you go, because McDonald's insists on that.
I'm just mad they don't have the foreign menus over here.
Oh, we could jump into a Pulp Fiction riff right now, but we won't.
Yeah.
One other strength that I'll offer you for that is kids love it. Kids love their Happy Meals.
True.
So, if you have little kids,
I know 5 years ago,
you have little kids and say, where should we go for dinner? They're going to say McDonald's.
One of the things I can think of that has changed in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, McDonald's, like you said, had the kids. They had all the kids' birthday parties with the indoor playlands, and now they've gotten rid of those playlands.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell a little bit of a story because we're getting tight on time. But if you said today, it's changed. They're changing the look of their restaurants. They are changing. I mentioned before when we were talking about Panera that they have these new signature recipe sandwiches. I haven't had one of these, so I don't know if they're any good. Maybe some of you can tell me. But if you get a maple bacon Dijon, you can get it as a burger. You can get it as a fried chicken sandwich. You can get it as a grilled chicken sandwich. And these are all, they're a little bit higher price tag. Why did they do that? Well, if you remember what McDonald's had a problem a few years ago. They were still the dominant market share in their business, but it was slowly declining, their market share, and their sales volume was slowly declining. And they had just gotten kind of stale. Who remembers what they did in response to that? What was the first thing they did?
I know that they started redoing their McDonald's according to the urban settings, like a Starbucks.
They did that a little bit, but even before that, they said, we're going to do breakfast all day.
Yeah, that's true.
And breakfast
I don't think
all
that's
day,
really went well.
breakfast all day with a limited menu gave them an immediate spike in sales, and then it went back to where it was. And then they said, okay, we'll offer more breakfast items all day. And that got them a even smaller spike in sales, and it went back to where it was. So then they finally figured out that there was something more systematic that they were missing. And so they really
Seasonal items.
well, they seasonal items and so on, but they really started surveying their customers, and they found out that one, people didn't like going inside, and it was partly that McDonald's land stuff, you know, the playland, and it was partly just the look and feel of the restaurant. The bright reds and bright oranges were not, or bright yellows were not appealing. Now they didn't want to get away with it from it because it's the Golden Arches. But if you see what their new store designs look like, and they've been systematically going back and remodeling their stores, they're going with this more earth tones, a more comfortable look, because they want people to come inside and sit down. They want them to get a second drink. They want them to say, okay, I'm done. I think I'll run up and get one of those dessert thingies they have. So they have that. And the other thing that they found was that there wasn't food that appealed to the adults. And the adults were getting used to things like Panera, like, even Red Robin, places like that. So they didn't have, they could appeal to the kids, but what they did is, they make their money at lunchtime, and fast food places do far less business at dinner time. They wanted people to come in, bring their kids, sit down, like where they are, have food that the adults can order, and have the Happy Meals for the kids. And they've made this change, and it has reversed the trend for them. They actually have begun to improve. So there was a lot of strategy behind that analysis, or as a result of that analysis. Okay, speaking of strategy, has anybody ever heard of Michael Porter?
No.
If you had taken principles of management from me, you would know Michael Porter. He has written probably a dozen books by now on strategy. He is one of the leading voices in the strategy world. He's a Harvard professor. And if I get a chance when we talk about sustainability, I will share with you a Michael Porter TED Talk in this course. But he talked a lot about competitive forces. So, now we've done our SWOT. We know who we are. We have a mission statement. How do we analyze our industry? And he looked at it with these 5 aspects of the competitive forces in an industry. So one is threat of new entrants. How easy is it for someone new to come into the business and start taking a lot of market share? Can anybody think of examples when that has happened? We talked about one of them. When we were talking about Nordstrom's, what's happening to department stores?
Amazon's starting to take that over.
Yeah, Amazon's starting to take it over. Okay, so now you're Amazon and you're the big dog. What's your threat?
Things like Walmart going online and things like that.
Yeah, Walmart has gone online in a big way. They're making a run at them. They've got work to do, but they have a marketplace for third-party sellers. They're selling their own stuff. They're doing fast turnarounds on delivery. Anybody else jump into that market?
I haven't heard anybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of smaller businesses, your Etsy's and companies like that are carving out niches. And
I heard Target is.
Target is the other one. Target is the other big retailer that has taken a deep dive into online, and they've even gotten to the point where Target is taking many of their stores and remodeling them and taking away some of the shopping space and dedicating it to a back room of distribution center, so that they can use a warehousing methodology to deliver online product orders rather than sending their people up and down aisles to fulfill shopping requests, and they save money that way. So that's the new entrance part of it. The bargaining power of suppliers. If there's not many suppliers, then they have the bargaining power. If you own a gas station, how much control do you have over the price of the gasoline you buy?
Just about none.
Just about none. So the suppliers have the bargaining power in that one. How about the bargaining power of the buyers? If you're a buyer, if you're a customer of gasoline, how much bargaining power do you have?
Literally none.
Almost none. Yeah, you look at those pricing signs, and man, if there's 4 gas stations on the 4 corners of an intersection, they're probably all going to have the same price. Maybe a penny or 2 a gallon different. And then there's a few where you'll find a few discount providers. And if you're a Costco member, gasoline savings pay my Costco membership for me. But other than that, the buyers don't have a lot of bargaining power. Whereas when it comes to groceries, you got a lot of choices.
Yeah.
You got a lot of choices. And then there's the threat of substitute products. So, what are some of the substitute products that are available?
Ethanol.
Ethanol would be one. Yeah. In that market, sure. Yeah. Ethanol, electric cars, do electric cars have enough traction for the oil industry to feel that it's a big deal? Not yet. Will
Good
they?
possibility in the future, yes.
Yeah. So you got, that's a substitute product. The classic one is, chicken for beef. If steaks are too expensive, I'll buy chicken. If steaks and chicken are too expensive, I'll buy pork chops. So those are
I
substitute.
hate to say this.
Go
I hate
ahead.
to say this real quick. You talked about the buying power, of gas, and you have like 4 different stations, like you said, Costco, and you have 4 different gas stations on the 4 corners. The crazy thing about it is when I worked at BP over in Whiting, the gas trucks like Family Express and Love's Truck Stop and all them, gas stations were bringing their trucks over to Whiting to get their gas. And everybody's like, well, the gas is better at Family Express, or the gas is better at Costco. I hate to tell you this, but it's all they buy it from the same place.
Yeah, the difference is that Costco discounts it. When I go to
Yeah.
Costco and fill up my gas tank, it's anywhere from 10 to 17, 18 cents a gallon cheaper.
Yeah, but other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, but we have a few in our area that if you go up 31, Route 31 to the old 31 towards Michigan, there's a few lower price places, but by and large, it is what it is because the suppliers are really dictating the price and the buyers don't really have anything to say about it. Both
Right.
the buyers is the gas stations and both the buyers, the customers of the gas stations. And then the last factor here is rivalry among competitors. And in some markets and some product lines, that is very, very heated and intense, and they really go after each other hard. And I think you're going to see that with Walmart and Amazon over the next few years. And in some cases, they all kind of cooperate and get along, and each one does its own thing. So that's a factor. And then Porter talks about 3 grand strategies that there are 3 basically generic strategies. And one of them is growth. This involves expanding, making more, selling more, investing more in your process. Means you're going to hire more employees, you're going to get more customers, all those kinds of things. That's a growth strategy. Stability involves little or no significant change. It's, keep doing what we do. And when we talk about the growth share model, you'll see what I mean by that. And then, of course, defensive is kind of a retrenchment. If you're not doing well and you have to circle back, a lot of companies have done this, and they've even done it successfully, where they say, we have to cut back. We have to cut back the number of stores that we have, the number of employees that we have. Our market share is going to be smaller, but we're going to do it in a profitable way. And that's a defensive strategy. And maybe after you get it under control, maybe you can revert back to growth, but not until. So there's a couple of ways that you do that with growth. It's product line expansion, as we discussed, where you might, make something new, something better, something different. It also might mean vertical markets expansion, which means that you buy your way into a market that's similar to yours, but it's not the same as, and I'll show you what that means. Stability is if it ain't broken, don't fix it. and it's a focus on cost. And as I mentioned with defensive, it's retrench and reduce your size. And why would you do any of those? It sort of depends on what's happening in your business. So, you know, you can look at it in another way where you say, you know, is the market, you know, you look at the markets where your business competes. Is it a big, broad market, or is it narrow? Is it a niche? Is it specialty? Then can I differentiate myself or do I need to be a cost leader? So, you know, the classic example, we've mentioned Walmart a few times. Big, broad market, they're the cost leader. You know, probably, you know, places like Aldi that might be a little bit cheaper. But by and large, when you're looking at the big market and the cost leader in it, most people would think Walmart. Whereas if you narrow the market and you start looking at maybe I only care about the high-end buyers, you know, that could be your Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and I mentioned Sunset Foods earlier, a very narrow focus that just had a North Shore of Chicago flavor to it. And so, you know, they can do a cost focus, but they really would, in their case, it was all about differentiation. So, you know, it's not going to be what it costs. It's going to be why you would pay that extra money. So that's how the strategies apply. And the single product versus diversification. I'm glad I'm in a few minutes before break because I need it from talking all this much. If the company makes only one product within its market, then you're going to focus on the benefits, and your risk, of course, is if anything causes that product to be obsolete, you're cooked. Some risk examples of single product. This is the cost of gasoline. And when you notice what happened to it in 2008, we talked about the RV industry and the recession in late 2008 and 2009. Look where gas prices went. And that was a catalyst for everything shutting down in that industry because there was no volume. You know, if your RV is going to get you 6 miles a gallon, it's going to get really expensive to operate at over $4 a gallon compared to $2 or $2.50 a gallon. And you can see how the RV units sold tracked with that at that time. Diversification is different. So it is, you know, operating several businesses under one ownership that aren't necessarily related to each other. This kind of a conglomerate was really, really popular in the late 70s and into the 80s. People really thought that, hey, if you can manage in one business, you can manage in any business. That proved not to be true. So there aren't nearly as many conglomerates as there used to be. One of the great examples is Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett is the CEO there, and they have all of these products, none of which seem to be related to each other, ranging from Dairy Queen to Court Furniture to what else do we have over here? I know they have Benjamin Moore paints if they're not on this list. They have
Forest River.
And of course they have Forest River. Thank you for bringing that up because you knew I would. So
I used to work there.
Yeah, and so, you know, they just own a lot of them. They let them operate independently, but they are responsible for their bottom line reporting back up to Berkshire Hathaway.
They even have a news channel. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Now here's also an example of diversification that kind of went bad. Yes, indeed, Hooters tried to have an airline. And they thought people would fly it just because their flight attendants were wearing shorts and t-shirts.
No, man, I'm flying on that one so I can get the wings.
or for the wings. Could be for the wings. They flew out of Gary, Chicago. We've talked about Northwest Indiana. They actually did fly out of Gary, Chicago for a little while.
Yeah, I remember seeing their jets.
Yeah, but they had no ability to operate this effectively. What they did in the restaurant business did not translate, and so that was an example of taking a risk and having it fail. Now, here's another diversification example, and that's Amazon Web Services. And you've probably all seen ads, and we talked about cloud computing and your ability to buy computing capacity on demand. the Google Cloud is out there as well. So is Microsoft Azure. But Amazon Web Services is the first and the biggest. And what they did was they built out that infrastructure I described for you earlier, with using virtualization and using all those redundancies. And they did that for their own business. So because they wanted to be worldwide, they wanted to spread around the computing capacity, but they needed to manage the inventory centrally. And they wanted that nonstop architecture so that they were virtually never down. And once they had it built out for their own business, they said, hey, this is something that we think we can sell. And this created an industry. And this was a vertical markets expansion. This was getting into the computing services business when they were never there before. And it grew fast and became their most profitable part of the business. So that's another example of how diversification works. So we talked about the competitive forces already. Of course, the last thing before break that I want to mention is customer strategies, because you have to have customer strategies. And in fact, truth be told, you should start with the customer. When you are thinking about the mission, it's what does my customer need? When you are doing SWOT analysis, how does the customer see my strengths and weaknesses? So that, this becomes a really big part of strategy. So it should drive strategy, and then it should shake out again as a result of strategy. So let's take a 10-minute break. It is 9:39. So let's see, 9:40. Let's come back at 9:50 and we'll finish up on strategy. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I'm going to record again for part 2. Let's take a break, and I'll see you in 10.